The Shalkor did not panic. They never did. Panic was an admission of insufficient preparation, and the Shalkor had built their civilization on the assumption that every variable worth fearing could be anticipated, modeled, and bounded. The chamber reflected this belief: clean geometry, muted lighting, information presented in layered transparency, no single data stream allowed to dominate the visual field. Every observer seated according to function, not rank. At the center of the chamber, the human settlement projection rotated slowly. Helios reach, population stable, infrastructure intact, energy throughput nominal, trade volume within forecast variance, no alarms. Which was why the item on the agenda felt disproportionate. Motion to amend classification. The Shalkor analyst assigned to present the motion did so without inflection. Human operational behavior continues to diverge from established loss response models, they said. Recent cultural observations indicate that this divergence persists across civilian, recreational, and emergency states. The projection shifted. Data bands overlaid the settlement's recent history. Acceptable loss. The barbecue. 2 events. Radically different contexts. Identical behavioral signatures. Several observers adjusted their posture slightly. This was not expected. Our previous designation assumed humans transitioned between readiness states, the analyst continued. Evidence now suggests no such transition exists. A pause. Not for effect, for verification. Humans appear to operate at a constant baseline of adaptive readiness. No one interrupted. That, too, was unusual. The Kelrin representative had not been scheduled to speak. They rarely were. They sat lower than the Shalkor observers, their heavier frame folding into the chair, as if gravity mattered more to them. Their garments bore signs of repair, patched seams, reinforced edges, visible history. When they spoke, it was without formality. "You're still framing this as deviation," the Kelrin said. "It's not." Several Shalkor eyes turned toward them. The presiding observer allowed the interruption. "Clarify." The Kelrin leaned forward slightly. "Your models assume competence is expressed through escalation. You think humans are failing to switch modes." A pause. They never had modes. The chamber absorbed this. The Shalkor analyst responded calmly. "Our concern is not philosophical. It is predictive. Human behavior resists boundary conditions." "Yes," the Kelrin replied. "That's the point." A data overlay appeared. Older, archived. Kelrin settlements. Historical collapse events. Recovery curves that bent instead of breaking. "You optimized to prevent failure," the Kelrin continued. "We learned to survive it." Humans never bothered making the distinction. This statement was not hostile. It was clinical and deeply uncomfortable. The motion did not pass easily. Several Shalkor observers raised concerns. If humans could not be reliably modeled, how could they be certified as stable partners? If loss thresholds did not constrain them, how could shared risk be calculated? If leisure did not reduce readiness, how could intent be inferred? The answers were unsatisfying, which made them dangerous. The final amendment language appeared on the central display. The room went quiet. Previous classification, human settlements, conditionally stable mode dependent, revised classification, human settlements, continuously adaptive mode agnostic. A secondary note followed. Predictive confidence reduced. This was unprecedented. The Shalkor did not lower predictive confidence lightly. Their entire advisory authority rested on the assumption that the future could be made legible. A quiet voice spoke from the rear. "And if we're wrong again?" The analyst answered without hesitation. "Then we update the record." The Kelrin did not smile. The change did not trigger alarms. No fleets moved. No sanctions followed. No public announcement was issued. But across the network, small things shifted. Human invitations began to be flagged differently. Joint operations added new clauses. Human discretion acknowledged. Emergency simulation stopped assuming human withdrawal at threshold breach. Most telling of all, a new advisory note circulated quietly among oversight bodies. Human presence does not imply de-escalation. The Kelrin received a copy. They appended a single internal comment. "We warned you this would feel late." The Shalkor archived the session. The chamber lights dimmed. Helios Reach continued rotating on the display, unchanged. People lived there, ate, gathered, adapted, exactly as they always had. The final entry in the file was brief. No analysis, no speculation. Just a record. Observation. Human behavior does not spike during crisis. Addendum. Crisis appears to be a labeling error. The file was closed, and somewhere in the system, a line moved. Not forward, not back, but sideways. That was worse.